Hi everybody! Today I'm going to teach you how to draw and create your very own vase of beautiful flowers. We're going to make some realistic looking flowers like this daffodil I have from my garden, and we can make things like tulips, and we're even going to make up some of our own flowers. I'm going to review with you some different super easy line designs. That lines can also create shapes, so we're going to make some interesting flowers today. I'm also going to show you my sketchbook here. If you never saw how to make a sketchbook, I'll click that in the video below, a link. This here, I did some practice sketches. It's always kind of fun to have that before you get into a project. It's just something I like to do. So when we make our projects today, when we make our vases, you need a pencil and paper. I used watercolors. I'm going to show you some watercolors today. If you don't have any watercolors, don't worry about it. You can use whatever you've got at your house to give it some color. All right, so let's get ready to draw together, and we're going to be creative. All right, so before we start on our project with our vase of flowers, we're going to just practice a couple lines and shapes. Some things that are going to come together and make the super fun vase we're going to make today with the flowers. First, with lines, you can just practice some curved lines. These are eventually going to turn into some stems. Okay, you could practice a U-shaped line. That's going to help us make a lot of the flowers. And also something as easy as a swirl, starting in the middle and working your way out. Those are some lines you can practice. Some shapes. You can think about a triangle shape that makes a lot of petals. Even if you begin to curve the corners of that triangle, make some more interesting petal shapes. You could make a raindrop shape even that kind of curves more at the bottom with the point at the top. That can also help us make some petals. We can also make some just by starting with a circle shape, closing up the shape with our line. And then lastly, something else to try out, one of my favorites, it's more of a natural shape. And we can just think of a star, but it doesn't have to be perfect at all. In fact, it's okay. The curvier, the swervier, the better. So those are a couple different line and shape ideas we're going to use for our drawing. All right, I've got my paper here, and here's how we'll start. What I'd like to do first is I make a little bit of a fold, good old taco fold, and just do a little teeny press, because that little fold there, can't see it too well. I don't want to see it really good, because that's going to be a guideline for me where the bottom part of this can be the vase and a tabletop, and the top part here is going to have all the flowers. So I'm going to start with the vase first. What I can do is I'm going to make it so it has a little bit of shape like you saw in the beginning of the video. So I'm going to put a little diagonal line on one side and a diagonal line on the other. I'm going to go out with a curved line. Woo, there goes my pencil. Did you hear that snap? I'm going to go on the other side. I'm going to try to match that line. If it's not perfect, that's okay. I'm going to have a curved line, and the line is then going to go back out. I'm going to make a little foot, little bottom part of my vase. Those two little lines, now I'm going to connect them. Now I can also connect this at the top, but here's what I'm going to do to make it look more three-dimensional. I'm going to make an oval shape. So there's an opening. So I'll have the stems going inside of it. I can create a line here to show that it's resting on a tabletop. And I've got the bottom going. Now I'm going to work on the top with the flowers, the fun part. So remember those lines we first practiced? I'm going to first put some of those lines coming out of this vase, and I'm going to put them in a variety of sizes and even kind of reaching out from the vase. Now, right now they look like a little stick toothpick stem, so I'm going to add another line to them to start to thicken them up. Now I'm pressing down hard so you guys can see. You can certainly press lighter so it's easier to erase. Now I'm going to start to make some flowers. Remember how we were talking about that spiral before? I'm going to think about that. I'm going to work away from the stem. I'm going to start where I would kind of guess the middle of my flower is going to be. I can make it up. And I'm making a spiral, but now I'm going to do it with a little bit of a curvy, wavy line to it. And I could bring it in to make a petal, and I keep going around, and it gets bigger and bigger as I go. So these are fun because, again, you can make them as big as you want. You can make the line different each time. Maybe you make it a little bit wider with those bumps, and some of this might even go off the page. So it looks like all these layers of petals. Okay, the next one I'm going to try out is a daffodil, that one that I had in an actual vase. I'm going to start with the middle of that one with thinking about a circle, but the circle's going to have some little bit of wave to it too. And a daffodil's got 6 petals. They are that triangle shape we were practicing. So I'm going to make it more like a triangle coming out from that center. Ooh, this one petal's going to go right off the page. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to add 2 more petals. And they can overlap a little bit. See how this petal is in front of this one right here. I could add some little lines for details. And then I could add in the center a circle for the center in the middle of that daffodil. Even a couple lines just showing as though it's stretching out there. Okay, let's try on this one a flower that's made up out of all of those star funky cloud shapes. It'll go all the way up and down the stem, so it'll make an interesting vase of flowers. This one almost looks like a little person, doesn't it? Like a little cookie or something, a little gingerbread man or lady. So I'm going to just have fun with this one. I can make them different sizes. They just have some curves to them. It fills up the space. I can overlap them. Doesn't have to be perfect. They don't all have to be the same exact shape, same exact size. And I can continue even around or on top of that stem. Now I haven't gotten into leaves yet. We'll get there. I'm just filling it in first with the flowers. And see there, I'm overlapping a little bit more. I'm almost to the bottom here. And if you want to fill in anything else, you could. Maybe there's just a couple little bumps. We don't see the whole entire flower. Okay. And continuing on then, let's talk about something like, how about one of the roses? A rose shape. A little bit different than this one though. Okay. So with that one, I'm going to start in the middle. And I am going to make more of that actual swirl shape so you can see it. It's not as wavy. And I'm going to stop for a moment and close it in. And then for the outside, I'm going to create a U shape as though it's coming out of the stem. And I could add a little bit more of a petal coming out like this. Okay, got another spot here. I'm going to make a tulip over here. So my tulip's going to be leaning over a little bit. It might not be, you could have yours more straight up and down if you'd like. But I'm going to think of that letter U, that line we were practicing before with the U's. And then I'm just going to close up the shape by making a little repeated W shape over and over again. I could split it in the middle as though there's 2 petals here. And I've got a variety of flowers right now. Now see how there's some space? Now I can add in some things like maybe even an extra flower or the leaves. So I could go back and I could make a curved line coming down and a curved line go back up to the flower on the stem here. Could repeat that shape on the other side. With the daffodil, I could do a completely different leaf by just drawing some lines right next to it, up and down. Could leave this one alone since it has a lot going on. Over here with this rose, I could add a little bit more down here as part of the stem, and I could add some more leaves to it. Maybe I add some veins on those leaves like this. We're going to have some overlapping where it's kind of tucked behind that other one. If you want to add some little thorns, you could do some little V shapes that look like a little triangle. And the tulip, again, I could do more of a broader, longer leaf coming out. And if you see that there's some more space, if you want to add more, you can. I'm just going to leave mine like this, so then we can get into the fun part, which is the painting part. So now I'm ready to paint. I did do a little bit of erasing, not to confuse you guys. So these stems are inside of the vase. So I have some paints here that have more than maybe you have at home. I'm going to just use these basic colors on this side. We got black, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, and some brown. I'm going to try to use a little bit of everything. And I'm going to go over a couple little pointers with you about watercolor paints. At school, we use these brushes that are real fluffy looking because they hang on to a lot of the water. You know, there's different brushes for different types of paint. And I always tell you guys about how we want to have a good hair day. Right now, these are keeping a good hair day. The bristles are all together. I'm not going to squeeze the water out of it and get water all over myself and water and paint all over the place. We leave them like that. What we don't want to do, and I see if I can do it. Can you see in the water there how that brush is going crazy? That's a bad hair day. I can't quite do it here in midair. But if it was smashed down on the paper, we don't want that. You don't want a bad hair day. So that way the paint doesn't go all over the place. We want it all nice. So there it is. Voila, right coming out of the water. So when you do begin to paint, these paints here are pretty dried out at the moment, so I have to activate them. So I'm going to use my bigger, fluffier watercolor brush. This one's a little bit smaller for smaller stuff. I may use it later. I have a lot of water in here. I'm going to activate this, and I'm just going to gently roll my paintbrush around. Again, it's still having a good hair day. It's not getting all smashed in there. All right, so I've got lots in there. I'm not too sure how dark it's going to look. We'll give it a try on this daffodil and make it yellow. Ooh, that's pretty cool. So if I want a lighter color, I put more water in my brush. If I want something darker, I try to wipe some of that extra water off. Okay. Or maybe if I want it just a teeny bit lighter, I should say, I just have a little bit in my brush. Let's say I'm going to put a little bit of yellow here. I could add some water and see how it's a little bit lighter. It's a little bit more washed out looking. Some parts of your watercolor could be darker looking and then lighter. It just has to do with the water. So it's kind of a neat little thing I wanted to point out to you guys. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill this in with paint. You're going to see how I paint, which is I'm going to pick a color, plug it into several places, spread it out a bit. You can see some lighter areas and darker areas, and also how I have some of the colors blend together. I'm kind of doing it on purpose. Some of it might bleed into other spots I didn't want. We'll see what happens. If I do have a spot that gets a little bit runny, I might just take my towel here and just blot it a little bit, just like that. Or if you have a paper towel or an old rag, you could do that too. All right, here we go. So I hope that you had fun drawing with me. If you were able to paint, awesome. If you don't have paints, remember, it's a-okay, whatever you've got. If you want to redraw this project, maybe you want to just draw your own special kind of flower, that's another fun way to do this as well. And again, with my project here, maybe you want to let it dry if you painted and go back to it, add some other things. Sometimes a lot of artists will do that. They'll put something aside, forget about it for a little bit, and then take another look and maybe fine tune it. That's something you can do. Just want you guys to have fun and miss you and keep being creative.